Hello everyone, my name is Ryan and welcome to a new video. Today is the first of our pro game commentaries, and since this is our August Congress series, where all our videos will be on the US Go Congress, I will be covering a game during the last round of the US Open Masters. So this game was played between two players that are not pros, but they are definitely pro level, and as you can see by their ranks below, Mark Lee, who's playing black, is 9.8 dan AGA, and Zhongfan Jian, he is 8.68 dan AGA. So why was this game one of the most important games of the Congress? Well, both of these players have lost one game only, and in the last round, whoever won will have a chance to tie Iko New, who also only lost one game. So the winner would be tied first place, and they would compete for SOS for the final first place in the US Open Masters. So a super important game, and of course we have our well-known Mark Lee, who swept the 2014 US Go Open Masters, and he also became very famous for his very strong style. So Mark was a former Korean insane, which is why he was so strong. He almost became pro before moving to the US to study college. And Filippo Jian, he is a student. He went to college in Atlanta, and he just finished his master's in Boston, in Northeastern University. So he also learned Go in China. He's also a good friend of mine, and Filippo is a very cool guy. He's always listening to his music and probably running his AI variations on his phone, I suspect, because he's almost a master of AI. And on the other hand, Mark Lee, I've talked with him quite a bit, and he hasn't been caught up with recent AI variations so much, which could be one of his disadvantages. So for those of you who watched the stream of this game and already know the result, well, today I will give you a brief summary and also some more in-depth variations of this game. So Mark is playing black and Filippo is white. So, sorry, I got the colors opposite. So the Filippo is playing black and Mark Lee is playing white. So we have two start point openings, pretty common AI opening, and then we have a counter approach. Now, this approach is sometimes considered a probe nowadays because it's not actually sente, and this is because after the double approach, many AIs consider the variation to be acceptable for white. So, which is contrary to what we thought before, because before we thought it to be very uncomfortable as the white stone when you get double approached. So, and we will see variations similar to that later. So a common opening for white answered black would invade on this side, and then white would be kind of slightly uncomfortable because if he blocks here, then later this C6 stone would be in an awkward place, because since if black already has a move here, it will limit the development on the left side. So it's kind of like a probe move almost. So white counter approached, and then black pincered here. And now we have a quick Joseki. So after the invasion, white tried to connect and jumped out. Okay, so for those of you who are very familiar with the newer AIs, you're probably not too surprised by this move. But just for completeness, I'm going to cover the difference between connecting and this extension move. So this move was considered very bad because in the future it leaves a cut. When white cuts, if black plays here, then of course now wouldn't work, but if later white has a lot of aji here for extension. For example, if white extends and black ignored, then when white cuts, black has to sacrifice one side, because if black extends and save the 2 stones, white can hana and capture the 3 stones. On the other hand, if black clamps, when white extends, black has to sacrifice the stones on the side. So there is a clear weakness here, which is why people thought it's bad to extend under. But now there's actually a bigger weakness that's associated with the connection, and that's this move, which is an age-old problematic move for this shape. Well, people have recognized this, but I guess people have just kind of dealt with it, because this move, because it's considered, it's a follow-up move, and if I have the 2-space extension, then this move would be less severe. So the main deal with this move is if you go up, then white could connect back, and this is uncomfortable. The main issue with this is actually when white pincers. Then this move becomes even more annoying because it can attach under, and it's an easy invasion on the side, which can be countered better if black crawls under. So there are weaknesses that are associated with both. I don't think it's very clear which one is better, but more people like to choose the AI move because we know it's better, so why not choose the better one? But I think for players that are under 7 Dan, probably wouldn't see too big of a difference. I personally don't even see a big difference between these 2 moves, so I'd say it's really up to your own preference which one you'd like to play. But if you like the O2 move, feel free to play it. So after this, of course, black takes sente, so it's obvious black will punish white for ignoring. Now in the game, white attached on this side. Now, a lot of you might be wondering why. So it's common taught in books that we should always attach on the stronger side and leave the weaker side, right? So I hope some of you are nodding at this point, but because here black has this stone and there's influence on this side, the Go theory would tell us we should probably attach here. So I'm going to tell you that this is not the case, and the main reason is because when black invades, white cannot block on this side because this shape is unacceptable. White is very inefficient and black is too comfortable. So the only move for white is to play the tiger's mouth, and then black would pull back and white would tari. So locally white is a little bit better, but you can see that this direction is very bad for white. So after black can also do a 2-space extension later and threaten to extend the stone out. So this direction is not very good, and then black would take sente to play elsewhere and take another big move. So typically we attach on the side where you're not afraid that your opponent will give up. So in this case, if black invades, then the direction of white's influence is much better positioned. So in this case, white would be good. White would be better than black. So this is kind of the new way of thinking, is you want to attach on the side where you're not afraid your opponent will give up. Because in this case, after the attach and connect, it really doesn't matter because both sides are attackable. So it really doesn't matter which side you attach. So that it's basically a flawed theory, and it never really worked. So I hope it gets corrected at some point. But I've been trying to tell my students that, so I hope you can remember something like that after watching this video. So after extending, black attached and then connected. So this is the new variation, and typically white should connect because it's considered that the tiger's mouth is bad because it leaves a very obvious weakness. Although black cannot push now because white could extend and there's not much profit. But the main thing with this is that it's not alive either. If black wants to capture, black can still locally capture this group. So it doesn't really help with life and death, and it just makes the center weaker. So there's no real reason why you should play the tiger's mouth instead of connect. So, but of course if white connects, black will probably play the Kosumi, expand the side, and then if white jumps, black will come back. So now this invasion isn't very severe, so black is actually in a decent position. But in the game, Mark played here. So this is the old Joseki. So I assume he didn't review too much AIs, which is why he played here. So actually, before this tournament, we were chatting, and he said he was really afraid of people playing AI variations because he didn't study it too much. And I can see that he's still sticking to his old style, which I think is good, because you really don't want to play any moves that are pure copying, right? You want to understand the reason why things are before playing such moves. And I really stand by that statement because in many cases I see some students, they play some moves, but when I ask them why, they can't really give me a good explanation. So make sure you have a theory on why you're doing things, or try to understand variations before utilizing it in your own game. I think that would help most players. So white played here because white doesn't really want to connect. Although it's Sente, it gives black an extension zone, and it's still uncomfortable if black comes back to Hane later. So you don't want to really easily exchange this. Now if white protects here though, it's too slow, right? Black will just play here. So white is trying to be a little more efficient. Right now, if black pushes, white can extend. And right now, this push and cut doesn't work yet. So it's a move that seeks efficiency. But the agi is kind of bad. So black ignored. And I think the next move is a little slow. So this pincer move is not directly Sente, because black played this move, black's not really afraid of white. Well, there's not the locally it's stronger, right? Because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. So yeah, this move isn't directly Sente. And on the other hand, the agi here is still very bad. So it's a pure capturing this stone, but it's leaving the double approach. So I don't really like this move, because after black double approach, black is playing very fast opening and taking all the big areas. So here we see that white extended here. And the reason why white do that is the other variation associated with this attachment is white can sometimes cut and Atari. So at the moment, the latter doesn't work, because after you get here, there's this Atari. So white wanted black to answer. So if black answers, then white could play here and then come back and Hane. I assume this is what white wants during the game. So after getting this, I don't quite like this direction though, because later white will probably have to come back on this side. So this group is still relatively strong. So while giving black the corner, white might have to fight for territory later. But in the game, black played a very good move. So black Hane'd. And this is a nice move, because if black rolls under, when white Hane's, it's very uncomfortable because white can double Hane, and locally what black has to connect back, and the shape becomes very bad. Or even if black cuts, white will just connect, and this is a very slow shape. So this honey is a good move, because if white turns, black will just extend back. Actually, black can extend down. So now if white captures, then black can sacrifice the 2 stones and take the outside. So this is a very flexible move, because now white has to come back to the left, and also this side becomes a lot weaker. These 2 stones aren't too big now, and because black already tanukied 1 stone, this would be still a good result. So in the game, white extended out. And I think this is I don't really like this move very much, because one, it hurts this side. And the second, because white has to capture this, it leaves black a nice ladder breaker. So, for one, white doesn't really want to come back and hane, because after this exchange, so locally here, white doesn't really have a good follow-up, because for one, this stone is hurt, so if white extends, this side is still under attack. So white's actually not very strong. Maybe connecting is too soft. Maybe black can come out as well. But the main deal is that here it's not clear what the benefit is. I don't think white got too much from this, and there's not really an easy follow-up, it seems. So yeah, but in the game, I think white should still hane and continue on this side, because cutting gave black this ladder breaker, which allowed black to push and cap. And now locally, this group is completely enclosed. And we can see that after black spent only 1 move on this side, black has completely almost captured. There's a little bit of aji, but this is almost a 20-point group with only using 1 move. And also this side, black can probably jump out any time to gain a little more here. While on the top left, not much for white to get yet. So we can see at this point it is clearly better for black now. So I really think white should probably just stick with the original variation and then just keep playing on the right side first. So if black protects here, then white could either pincer here or or perhaps just pincer on the right side. So I think it's still too early to play here first, because it just left black such a good follow-up move. And we can see after this, black quickly takes this, and now white is at a loss in territory. So here, black tanukied again. So black, you can see Filippo's style is very flexible now. You might be able to tell that he actually reviews a lot of AI, but maybe now you kind of think that and you're like, oh yeah, because now I said that. But yeah, he looks a lot of AI, and you can see from his style that he's very flexible, and he tanukis many times. So locally, of course, you can see there is a ko, but this ko is very heavy for white. So it's definitely not easy for white to start this. And the second part is that black is very strong, so there's not an easy ko-threat. For example, if white escapes this, obviously it's not going to be a ko-threat, because this wouldn't be big enough. This side, the loss here is too big. So black leaves his ko, and then in the game, white connected. I'm not too sure why white made this exchange early, because we can see it's obvious that this is a bad exchange in terms of territory. Black made a lot of territory here, and it might might be because white wanted to make this Hane, but I think white should have done this immediately. Whenever black extends, white can connect. So I don't think this is urgent. So if black cuts, then white can connect and then come back to block. So in the game, after white connected first and then Hane'd, black actually turned and then connected this back. So we can see black is very flexible. Because if black cuts, white has a good follow-up. And now if black tanukis, white can extend in sente. So if black comes back here, white can very nicely make this into solid territory. So in the game, black is very flexible. Black turned and then extended this move back. So when white clamped, black protected one more time and then took sente again. So the key about black's opening is really speed. Like we can see black approaching, taking sente, double approaching, getting another sente variation, approaching again, and then double approaching again, and then taking another move, and then another move. So I think black is demonstrating very well, really, the power of taking sente move. And it's really something that a lot of AI moves or AI thinking taught us, is when you place a move in a location first, the value is really a lot higher than what we expected. And so, which means a lot of the time when you can take sente, or when a move doesn't look too big anymore, you should always play elsewhere. And this is what black did. So at this point, we can see black is definitely ahead. So here, if white cuts, black can still extend out in a good shape. So it's kind of pointless if white can't really attack this well, because this move is dame, right? There's no points associated with it. So if we do a quick calculation, white has about 12 points here, 5 points here, so under 20 points, so maybe 20 points only. And we can see black has about, maybe we can say about 5 in here. Maybe 5 is a little less, but let's just say 5. 7 here, so 12. Here there's 10, 13, 14. So that's already 26, and plus this. So this is at least probably worth 15 and up. So we can see black has a clear lead in territory and no weak groups. So it's not difficult to say that black has a comfortable lead at this point. And now black slided under. So this is a common way to reduce this side. If white slides here, then black would happily take the territory. And extending on the side is really boring. There's not much territory to gain, and really help black solidify the corner. So the benefit of this slide is that the clamp is sente. Because if black descends, there's so much agi associated with it. There's attachments, and so on. So it's better for black to connect. And this leaves a connecting move. So still keeps black's territory at a minimum. And then black shoulder hit to reduce white. So when you're not afraid of giving your opponent third line territory, the shoulder hit is a good move, because when your opponent tries to connect, they'll be forcing you on the third line, and you'll be on the fourth line. So that's typically when you want a shoulder hit. Now the next move seems a little too reserved, I think. At this point, since white is behind, as white, I really want to make this. I really want to go out on this side and force black to connect. So perhaps maybe this Kosumi, because if black can comfortably connect this, then black becomes way too strong on this side. So if black turns, then I can play here, no problem. And this keeps this side slightly weak. Because after what I saw in the game, when white played here, and then after black attached, black extended back. And now this is all very strong. And white's behind in territory, so that deficit is really going to carry out to the end because there's no weak groups to get it back from. Okay, so after this, white played here, and then Hane. And black is really not letting it go. So black cut and descended. So of course, if black plays the tiger's mouth, white would extend and connect back. This would give white way too much territory on the right side, and all of a sudden white would catch up in terms of territory. So this would be not very good for black. So so before extending, black probably already read this out and decided he wanted to cut. And the main reason for this is that since descending is sente, white can't block because black can descend again, and this is pretty famous to Suji, to force this throw-in and Atari. So there's a very critical weakness on this side, which means white has to fix here. So black actually is very strong on the outside because these three stones have 4 liberties. So this allows black to fight. So in the game we can see after white connected, black jumps. And then white is forced to push out this way. Now this is very uncomfortable, right? We can see when black Atari and double Hane, white's shape is very bad. And then black jumps. This is a very big territory move. It's a reverse sente because if black simply connects here, this is a sente move for white. And this is big move for both territory and eye space for both. So this is a move that doesn't look big but is critical for eyes for both players. And also it's sente for black. So white lives, and then black comes back to connect. And now white is even at a higher deficit in territory. Right? Now this corner is reduced to only about 7 points, because now if there's no life and death issue, black can just play this move and white has to come back and live. So this is only a 7-point corner. 5 points, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, only 22. And black has too much territory. So now after this, white is in big trouble. So now all black has to do is make strong forcing moves and first settle this group so that black doesn't have to play T9 to make this group alive, and make sure white doesn't have a big center. And I guess the last uncertain area is this corner. But we can see black is very strong in each group. There's not obvious co-threats anywhere. On the other hand, black has a lot of co-threats. We can see, of course, this slide is a co-threat. This group isn't completely settled. So black has so many co-threats, and right at this point, this game, I would say, is almost over already. When white is, again, forced to protect, and then when black extends this out, white's group isn't alive, so white can't Tanuki anymore, because black can now just extend this back. When this group isn't alive, things are going to get ugly, right? Because now this group has to connect back. So white comes back to capture this. So black gets this turn. And you can see all this influence is now coming together, and there's not much hope really. So then black comes here to enclose white. And actually black doesn't really need to capture, but I assume since the reading part isn't too complicated, black read out in the end and made this very, very sharp killing move. This is a very bold move, and I don't recommend this for players, especially when you have the lead. Because when at any point when you do misread, it's going to cost you the whole game, really. Because when you're ahead, it's unnecessary to take risks. But if you trust your reading and you see something, I think you should go for it. Because if you back down a little bit and a little bit, it's still easy to lose the lead. So always the two things to consider. I think it really depends on your style, because some players are very good at keeping their lead, while others tend to fall back and retreat a little bit here and there. And that's very dangerous, because by the time you retreat too much, it's hard to realize, and then you might fall back behind again, and that's also very dangerous. So some say the hardest part about Go is taking a game that you're leading and winning. And I totally agree here. So, but we can see Filippo doing very well in this game. He attached, not retreating a single bit. So here he's making a killing move here. This exchange is necessary because if Black plays somewhere else first, this is Sente. So, because there's a double Atari, and then White can come back to live. So, if I were Black, I would probably play this move directly. And if White lives, I would Atari, make the exchanges, and then just finish off everything else. So just, finish off the last part and probably just connect back. Because Black is clearly ahead in terms of territory. The endgame is also very easy to play out. So I would probably do something like that. But this is also a very clear way to win. So Black attached and then extended. Now there's no good way for White now to live. So after cutting, Black is very good at reading, Atari, and extend. Now, if White captures the stone, it wouldn't matter because Black can extend down, and there's still no eyes on the side. So there's still kind of hopeless there. And if White Hanes, then Black wouldn't Atari here, Black would just capture. And it's really no use because there's still no eyes on the side. If White extends, Black can Hane. So only one eye here, no other place for making eyes. So this is a very, very sad ending here. But really, it's Black actually saw even that White could make this ko, but there's actually no ko threats. So this is something that's actually very rare for the side that doesn't have many territory, because typically you have a lot of ko threats, but in this case White actually has 0 ko threats, no ko threats anywhere, which is kind of, which is unfortunate really for White. So of course cutting here or here is definitely not enough to make up the big loss of this group in the middle. So in the end, White chose to use this way to resign. So overall, it's a very exciting game at the very end. Now in the beginning, it doesn't look very interesting, but I really like to say that I really appreciated the way Black handled the Sentes. So Black did very well at keeping Sente and taking a clear lead. So starting from the very beginning, Black chose a Sente Joseki on the lower right, made the simple approach, and then played out extended and tenuki'd again. And then when White pincered, Black noticed he can Hane, so he's not too worried about this side, so he can tenuki'd again. So after White extending some moves here, getting the ladder and cutting, Black tanukied again to take benefit on this side. So we can see black is taking sente everywhere, punishing white for ignoring, and then tanukiing again, just taking all the big points on the board. And in the opening, when you do that, it's really easy to establish a big lead. And then black actually held on to it very well, not letting white get a clear advantage in any fight. So after white tried to start a fight, it was clearly in white's disadvantage, and black didn't pull back at all, made clear reading, and finished this game off. So a very nice performance by Filippo, and kind of unfortunate for Mark, but you know, I think black played so well in this game that he really deserved this win. So I hope you enjoyed today's commentary. If you like our videos and you want to support the channel, give us a like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Oh, by the way, a link to the SGF file will be included in this description. So if you'd like to look at the variations that I played out in this video, check out the description.